happened on a chilly evening, under the bright stage lights of the college auditorium. Ethan stood there, trembling, holding a microphone, and staring at the girl he had adored for 3 years. He had poured his heart into a love letter, a confession he was about to make public. The air in the room felt heavy. Ethan's voice cracked as he began. "Sophia," he said, I've liked you for so long. You make everything brighter. I just wanted you to know that I love you." Sophia stood up. She looked at him with a cruel glint in her eyes. Her voice echoed through the room, dripping with mockery. "You love me?" The room went silent. And then she said it. "You're nothing but a loser, Ethan. Someone like you could never handle a girl like me." Ethan ran out of the auditorium, his vision blurred by tears. The laughter still echoed in his mind as he reached a quiet corner. He clenched his fists and whispered, "One day, they'll see. One day, I'll make them all regret it." 2 years passed. The timid, broken boy from college was gone. In his place stood a man who had rebuilt himself from the ground up. Ethan had poured all his pain into creating something extraordinary. His tech startup was now one of the most talked-about companies in the industry. One evening, as Ethan scrolled through social media, a familiar face appeared. Sophia. Her once perfect life seemed to have crumbled. The caption read, "Hard times, but staying strong." Her smile was forced, her eyes tired. Ethan leaned back in his chair, a cold smile spreading across his face. "Let's see how the tables turn," he muttered. For the first time in years, he felt a spark of satisfaction. This was his moment. Ethan's office was quiet except for the soft hum of his computer. The room was a mix of sleek modern furniture and a wall covered with notes and photos. Every detail of his plan was pinned there, a roadmap of his revenge. He had been preparing for months. Step 1. Gain her trust. Ethan knew Sophia's life had fallen apart. Through a private investigator, he learned about her mounting debts. Quietly, he began buying them up under a shell company. She would never know who held the strings. Step 2. Meet by chance. Ethan crafted a scenario where their paths would cross naturally. He rehearsed his words, his expressions, every detail down to the smallest gesture. This wasn't just revenge, it was art. On a rainy afternoon, Ethan walked into a cozy cafe. The smell of coffee and the sound of gentle chatter filled the air. And there she was, Sophia, sitting alone by the window, staring at her phone. Ethan's voice was calm and confident as he approached her. "Sophia? It's been years, hasn't it?" She looked up, her eyes narrowing as she tried to place him. He'd changed so much. Gone was the shy boy she humiliated. They talked. Ethan shared stories of his success, each one carefully crafted to impress without appearing boastful. Sophia listened, her interest piqued. When he offered to buy her coffee, she hesitated for only a moment before agreeing. Over the next few weeks, Ethan became a constant presence in Sophia's life. He listened to her stories, her struggles, her regrets. Each time she opened up, he offered solutions, weaving himself deeper into her world. One night, as they sat on a bench overlooking the city, Sophia's voice trembled. "I've done things I'm not proud of," she said. "I hurt someone who didn't deserve it." For a moment, Ethan's resolve wavered, but he quickly reminded himself why he was there. As they walked away from the bench, Sophia's hand brushed against Ethan's. She smiled at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. And just like that, Ethan's trap was set. The grand ballroom was alive with laughter and music. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, casting a golden glow over the room. Ethan walked in with Sophia by his side, her dress shimmering as she clung to his arm. As the night reached its peak, Ethan tapped his glass, drawing the room's attention. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady and commanding, "I want to share a story tonight. A story about humiliation, growth, and redemption." Ethan's words cut through the silence like a knife. He recounted the night. He confessed his feelings to someone he admired, only to be mocked and humiliated in front of a crowd. His eyes never left Sophia's as he spoke. When Ethan finally said her name, Sophia's legs nearly gave out. The room seemed to shrink around her. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "Ethan?" As Sophia broke down in tears, pleading for forgiveness, Ethan felt a wave of satisfaction. But it was fleeting. Her words, raw and genuine, struck a chord he hadn't anticipated. Ethan's mind raced. He had spent years dreaming of this moment, but standing there, watching her crumble, he felt something he hadn't expected: guilt. After the party, they stood on the balcony overlooking the city. The cold wind carried the weight of their silence. Finally, Sophia spoke. "I was young and stupid, Ethan. I thought hurting others made me powerful. But I've changed." Ethan's voice was low, almost a whisper. "Do you know what it's like to feel invisible? To give everything to someone and be treated like nothing?" Sophia's tears fell silently as she nodded. "I do now," she said. Ethan's heart wavered. He could leave her broken, as she left him, or he could let go of the anger that had consumed him for so long. With a deep breath, he stepped back from the edge of his revenge. "I forgive you," he said, his voice steady. As Ethan walked away, he felt lighter, as though a weight had been lifted. Revenge had been his goal, but forgiveness set him free. And for Sophia, it was the beginning of a new chapter, one she hoped would lead to redemption. Ethan stood silently in front of Sophia, the tension between them heavy in the cool night air. For a moment, neither spoke, their emotions too raw to put into words. Finally, Ethan broke the silence. "Sophia, I forgive you," he said. His voice was calm but firm. "But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means freeing yourself from the past." Sophia's voice trembled as she responded. "Thank you, Ethan, for giving me a chance to make things right, even if it's not as lovers." Her words hung in the air, heavy with regret and gratitude. Ethan turned and walked away, each step feeling lighter than the last. For the first time in years, he felt truly free. Behind him, Sophia stood alone on the balcony, the city lights reflecting in her tear-filled eyes. She whispered softly, "I'll do better." Back in his apartment, Ethan sat at his desk, a small, tattered photo in his hands. It was a picture of himself from his college days, shy and unassuming. He smiled faintly and whispered, "I'm finally free." The photo slipped from his fingers onto the desk as he leaned back, a weight lifted from his shoulders. As the screen fades to black, we're reminded of the power of forgiveness. Not for others, but for ourselves. If you've ever faced a moment where forgiveness felt impossible, share your story in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that touch the heart and soul.